finally. Oh, that didn't change it. Oh, I could have lowered it, whatever. 640, average of 5. Okay, look at this. After I stopped recording, I extended the average of 5 into a 6.26 average of 5 and a 7.02 average of 12. Why didn't I keep recording? Oh, I'm so mad at myself. There were the times, by the way, but I have no real proof. Oh well, you can just trust me on the 8.44. So, while I show you that average of 5 right here, I'm going to explain the method I use to solve Rubik's Cubes with half turns only. Before I tell you what that method is, I think I should first explain some mechanics of how the puzzle works when you're only using half turns. The first thing to notice is that permutation defines orientation. What does that mean? Well, if you tell me where a piece is, for example, you tell me that the red and yellow edge is here, that's the permutation. I will instantly know what the orientation is. And that's because this face will always be red or orange. Same with this one. These two faces will always be yellow or white, and these two faces will always be green or blue. So when I know that the red and yellow edge is here, I know it's got to be flipped in this way. The same is true for the corners. So that means you don't have to care about orientation at all. This is a permutation only puzzle. The second important feature is where pieces can actually move to. So let's look at this edge here and think of all the positions it could theoretically end up in. Now on a normal Rubik's Cube, it could end up in the 12 edge positions, right? So 12 options. But if you only have half turns, you can see that it can only move across like centers, you know, like straight across, which means there's only 4 positions that edge can be in, forming this ring. And it turns out all 12 edges can only orbit in these like 4 rings, one going around like the equator, one going around the middle slice, and one going around the S slice. And those will never interchange. So these 4 edges will only intermingle with themselves. These 4 edges will only intermingle with themselves. And these 4 edges will only intermingle with themselves. With corners, it's the same. You have one group of corners like this, and one group of corners like this. And those two groups will never intermingle. They will only mix with their own group. That actually reduces the number of permutations quite a bit. Okay, I want to simplify notation. Because every move is a 180-degree turn, I don't really need to add the 2 at the end of every move. So like, this would normally be R2. But I'll just say R, and you know it's gonna be an R2, since there are no R's or R primes. Yeah, so like RUF would be RUF. Pretty self-explanatory. Oh wait, there's one more thing I want to tell you before getting into how my method actually works. So I told you how there are 3 rings of 4 edges each that only intermingle with themselves. Let's see what happens when everything is solved except for 1 ring and how we can solve that. I'm going to show these last 4 edge cases first because they're useful in many different stages of the solve. There aren't that many cases to learn, so let's just go through all of them right now. By the way, these cases are exactly the same as step 4C in Ru. The only difference is that because you can't do 90-degree turns, the algorithms might not be quite as finger trick friendly. The first case is 2 adjacent swaps. Swap, swap. And this occurs 2 out of 12 times. You solve it with either UM or MU. The second case is 2 diagonal swaps. This with this, this with this. And if you think about it, it's really just a sum of 2 of the first case, but rotated. So you can think of it as like UM, and now you've got the other case. However, because there are 2 ways to solve that case, UM and MU, you can actually cancel out an M move like this. UMU, the M's will cancel as you do an X rotation, and then UMU. So the algorithm is UMU X UMU. Believe it or not, we've arrived at our third and final case, the 3 cycle. there's one solved edge, two edges that want to move to adjacent spots, so here to here and here to here, and one edge that wants to go diagonally to here. And I'll call the diagonal edge the ambitious one because it's trying to go the furthest. Now this case appears 8 out of 12 times, so you'll be dealing with it quite a lot. To solve it, you hold the cube with the ambitious edge in the front bottom and the two not ambitious edges here, like this. The algorithm is RURF, RURF. Now this sounds really long, but there's a very fluid way to finger trick it. With both hands, you're going to hold the cube with your thumbs and fourth fingers, which leaves your second and third fingers free for double flicking. And this is how it goes. R, U, R, F, R, U, R, F. It was hard for me to execute this at first, but it got easier after a few days. So what happens if it's reversed where the ambitious edge is in the back top? Well, one option is just to turn it around and then do the algorithm since the sides are identical. But a better choice is to just do the mirrored version of the algorithm where you're coming down like this. R, F, R, U, R, F, R, U. You can think of the general rule of thumb is you're gonna start with an R, but you want to turn away from the ambitious edge. So the ambitious edge is here, you turn away from it, and then start the algorithm. And it's very easy to do once you get the hang of it. That also means there's a 1 in 12 chance that the final ring will be solved automatically, a skip. Now it's finally time to get to the method. While brainstorming what the best way to solve this cube was, I came up with two really terrible methods. You shouldn't use them, but I just wanted to mention what they were. Because I found a much better method, and I call the method BTSM. Now it's very important that you don't confuse BTSM with BDSM. However, they're similar in the fact that you restrict yourself to have more fun. What am I saying? Okay, let's just get to the method. It's BTSM because it stands for block, triplets, sides, middle. And that's the order you solve it. The first step is block. All you do is just solve any 1x2x3 block, just like in Ru. You can usually build the first block completely intuitively, but if you need to, you can use the last 4 edge cases I showed you earlier. However, I would advise against it because the move count is pretty high. Another useful algorithm is RU, 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 which does 2 swaps here and here, and that can be very helpful if you have a scramble that looks kind of like a scramble like this. So you're trying to build the blue and yellow block, and 5 out of 6 pieces are already in place, but you just need to put this piece over here. So if you hold it like this and do the algorithm, it'll swap these two and these two, which will put this one in the right spot. Or I guess I didn't have to do that U2 at the end. But that's also a lot of moves, so I try to avoid that if I can. So block is done. On to the second step, which is triplets. What you want to do with triplets is turn these 4 groups of pieces into triplets that are all like one connected piece. So like this one is already like that just by luck. It sounds like there could be a billion cases for this, but there's really only 2, and I'll explain why. So look at the middle ring of edges. There's 4, and remember they can only mix with themselves, nothing else. These 2 edges are already in place, so the other 2 edges will either be in the correct place or flipped. Either way, connected with a center here, they will be a triplet. But it could be flipped or not, but it doesn't really matter. We just want it to be a grouped up triplet, and it already is. So we really only care about 3 here. 1, 2, 3. It turns out that by the mechanics of how the corners work, when you solve one block, all of the corners will already be paired up with each other. So you can see these corners are the same, these corners are the same, and these corners are the same. So to pair the triplets, all you have to do is move around the edges between them to where they need to go. So this one's already in the right spot, so we can ignore it. This white and blue edge wants to go with these corners here and end up here. And this yellow and blue edge just wants to go over here. So that means the only cases are a 2 swap and a 3 cycle. There's a 1 in 6 chance you get a skip, like this. So all the triplets are already paired up and you can just skip this step. Then there's a 3 in 6 chance that you have 2 that need to swap, like here and here. And then there's 1 solved one. And this is how you solve it. Using R and U moves, you want to put the 2 edges that need to swap in the top layer. And this will never take more than 2 moves. It only takes 1 move on average. And then do the 6 move algorithm here. FRU, FRF. And this is how I finger trick it. With the right hand, hold the cube with the thumb and third finger like this. And with the left hand, use your thumb and fourth finger like this, and then rotate here and do F, R, U, F, R, F. And there we go, now they are solved. This algorithm actually moves around the triplets, but that doesn't matter because all we care about at this stage is just tripling them up. So to give you a second example, here we are again with two edges that need to swap. You can tell because this one's already solved. Then you put them in the top like that, so now they're here, and then you do the algorithm. F, R, U, F, R, F. And now all the triplets are paired up. Okay, now let's look at the 3 cycle, which happens 2 out of 6 times. When you have all 3 of them unsolved, it's very easy to recognize because none of them are aligned. I hold it like this, and then see, okay, this edge wants to go here. That means I already know that this is an adjacent edge and this is the ambitious one. So I can do the algorithm always pointing away from the ambitious edge, and then just do it, and because it does the 3 cycle, it now pairs up all of the triplets correctly. On the other hand, if you have all 3 unpaired again, but when you look at this edge, it doesn't want to go up here, that means you know that this one's the ambitious edge because the only place left for it to go is way back here. So when you do the 3 cycle, you're going to go away from the ambitious edge, which is now here. And yeah, that solves it. So it's actually pretty simple to use the 3 cycle to solve those cases. Yeah, so we're done with that step. The third step is S for sides, and this step is honestly brain dead easy. All you want to do is solve the left and right sides. You do this with R and U moves. The way I like to think of it is, keep track of this bottom color yellow. You want the other yellow triplet to end up here as well, but you first want to pair it up with this middle one. So like if I had it like this, that would not be right. They're not paired up. So you want to make sure they're like opposite so that when you do this, they're paired up, and then bring it down. And then all you'll ever have to do after that is just a U to solve the left and right sides completely. In fact, because the only available moves for this step are R and U, that's only 2 options, making these moves is kind of like moving around on a 12-numbered clock. So that means you'll never need to use more than 6 moves, and on average you'll only need to use 3 moves. With the left and right side solved, now we have M, middle layer. So all you gotta do is, if you have to, do an M to align the centers, and then you just have one of the last 4 edges cases I already showed you. So you know how to finish it up. This is just a 3 cycle, and we can do that right now. Done, it's solved. Here's some more general thoughts about this method. So it's BTSM, but you might think, why can't you swap around the T and S? Why not do the sides first before doing the triplets? So what I mean by this is, once you're done with your block, instead of pairing up the triplets, why not solve the corners on the sides first? So like that, and then deal with the pairing up. The reason I don't want to do that is because pairing up when you have a 2 swap, that algorithm I used actually moves around the triplets, so now your sides are messed up. I know there are algorithms that will just swap these 2 edges and some stuff on the middle layer without messing up the sides, but those are probably more moves. And in addition, you'll also have to memorize when these 2 are swapped and when these 2 are swapped, and I just didn't want that many algorithms. So I said, let's just have one algorithm to swap the ones on top, and whenever they're not on top, just use setup moves. And it's okay to do those setup moves because when we're doing triplets, we haven't solved the side yet, so it doesn't matter where pieces actually are. Because there are so few possible permutations of this puzzle, you can often get very lucky scrambles. And that often means you can look far into the solve from inspection. So here's one such case. I see this white block here, and these 2 pieces will go into the right spot with just 1 move, like that. I guess that would be a B if you're holding in this orientation. Now, because that move is only going to affect the pieces in the back, I know that once I'm done with the block, the pieces that are still like exposed will stay in the same spot. So I can look into the next step, which is triples, and see that I'm going to have a 3 cycle. And that's because none of these are paired up, so 3 of them are wrong. It's a 3 cycle. And I can also see that this edge is going to go down here, which means this edge is the ambitious one. So if I hold it like this, I'm going to want to turn down like that first, you know, because you turn away from the ambitious one. However, because I need to do that first, well, now R move to bring this block together, I can actually cancel it because R plus R equals nothing. So I can kind of do like this, a phantom one, before inspection, start the timer, and then finish the algorithm. Like that. And the block's done and the pairing is done. And actually the sides are done just by luck. So you can often get very lucky scrambles like that and cancel moves and everything. And oh, another way to cancel moves is between the side stage and the middle layer stage. So pretend we just finished the triplet stage and we're moving on to sides. So yellow's on the bottom, we want to move the other triplet there, so it's actually just 2 moves. And then we got to do a U to solve the sides completely, right? You can see that. However, after you're doing the U, you'll end up with the algorithm that can be solved with UM. 2 U's added together add up to nothing. So why do UM when you could just do MUM? See, you can cancel moves there as well. So yeah, pretty easy method. Right now I'm averaging high 9s with it. And yeah, if you're watching this, you should go and learn it and try to beat my average because I know so much faster is possible. So good luck and goodbye.